God has given me many gifts and abilities. It is my responsibility to use them and not waste them. My outlook on life is a choice, not a reaction. I will make my world a better place for myself and those around me. I will do my best not to make a comment out of ignorance. For my life is a dance not covered in spring. I will not satellite myself. I'll be a part of the solution, not part of the problem. Just because somebody calls me a tree doesn't make me wood. I'll give my best because I expect your best. Stop being offended on things that don't concern you. There's a chance there might be bacon today. Yeah. Can a couple people pass these out? Did everybody take this Friday? All right, work.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
What do we do this Friday?
We are probably, we're gonna go ahead and do the Judicail Branch now. We're probably gonna take a quiz Friday. Okay.
Yeah, I will not be here also Friday. I am going on a tour.
Okay.
I'll be at the game.
We'll just give it to you. We might, maybe, if you remind me, I can just give it to you Thursday and you can have it when you come back. If that's okay.
Yeah, I'll be at the game.
What's that?
The Thompson, you know.
Joe's mom on the street.
Her mom only gets some peanuts.
They're like Connie. Yeah, he's probably very good way.
So it's a team thing.
You're
I
trying
mean,
to
all of them are a little bit. I mean, this is your brother. Or college is there. Like, you're gonna be here 4 years.
I got six.
That's true.
Let's say,
The office mainly in that area. We went up in the Bean Street. We went up Bean Street all the way out. We fished from halfway through the Bean Street. We got in the house and we we fished from there all the way still. The whole thing.
6:30.
But we only catch them on rocks. Like, yeah, we don't catch anything on rocks. And like, this one fish, we were just cruising along, like me and my dad both got oh, that's a cool rock. The camera stood right in front of it, and like I watched the little bass come out from underneath it. It was only like that.
Alright, we'll
There's so many
we'll do this in just a little bit.
They were just go ahead and start this. So there was a bit of
You're fishing.
The saying for today is from
That's true. We want to do it for you. But we have your permission.
today's saying is from Andrew Carnegie. C-A-R-N-E-G-I-E. Andrew Carnegie. What do you remember about Andrew Carnegie?
That's name, so. Yes.
Last year, here's one of the steel guys, industrialists, Industrial Revolution. Andrew Carnegie said you can't push anybody up the ladder. You can't push anybody up the ladder unless they're willing to climb a little. You can't push anybody up the ladder unless they're willing to climb a little. What does that mean?
So after you get afterwards, you can only help so much.
Right.
I like that.
I can do my best to try to help y'all, but if y'all ain't willing to take a step, you doesn't do any good. I can't push you up the ladder. You gotta climb with it. We got 2 weeks till Thanksgiving, so we're gonna. I imagine this will be done with a day or 2 left, and then we'll do something semi-interesting. And then when we come back from Christmas, we'll do the presidential candidates, and then we'll do laws. And then we'll do some other stuff. That's it.
I'll be in here about 9:30. For work. Almost Thanksgiving. Huh? Oh, I am. I told him I'll be late every morning. I'll be here still.
I'm sure you might be stuck.
All right.
I can't get it.
You got yes.
There we go. I got it.
Stop with.
The Supreme Court. What are they the ultimate interpreter of?
The law.
The law. But the Constitution, which is true, but also the law. And that's a loaded statement. We talk about the food drive. Isn't that in the, well, where they got it? Y'all know where they got it? Cafeteria. Let's do something there. Let's help some people. And I think I've said this last few years they did it. Is the winning class supposed to get like some donut thing? Why don't we give that to them too? Because I don't think any of us really need donuts. You know what I'm saying? And that if we're gathering food for people who need food, give them a donut, you know? I mean, anyway.
Blueberry one. Bake show.
Yeah, it was Camden Baker's team. Yeah, Caden. Camden was. I've run out of file space. I only have so much. I run out of it. I don't know how many years ago Camden was. All right, so we got the Constitution and the law. The law could mean a lot of stuff. It could be the Constitution, it could be federal law, it could be even state law. Because state law is supposed to follow the Constitution. So ultimately it is Constitution. All right, we got a dual court system. What's dual mean? 2. What's the 2 court systems we got? Federal and state. We got federal court, we have state court. They deal with separate stuff. Now do we have, tell you what, well, yeah, we do that. Within the federal and the state courts, are there 2 systems within each one of them? You have civil and criminal. So within each, federal courts and state courts. All right, jurisdiction. What's jurisdiction?
Where the authority ends.
This word juris, okay, think of a word that you've heard that sounds kind of like juris. Jury. This word juris comes from Latin. And I've told you before, if you are going to go to law school or medical school, you're going to know Latin, because all that stuff is Latin. Any time you see juris, jurisdiction, jurisprudence, jury, all that stuff has to do with law stuff. I don't know what juris means. But jurisdiction, if you get, I'm in charge of government. I am not in charge of English. My jurisdiction ends at that door. I don't have anything to do with English. I can't help you with English. Obviously, I can't help you with English. I do know one that a girl with a short secret. So I know a little bit about it, but I don't have jurisdiction. Several years ago, there were some people that broke out of jail down near Houston, maybe it was down near Victoria, and they killed one of them. They killed a guy in Irving, killed a police officer in Irving, like a rookie police officer. And they found a lot of them in Colorado. They escaped to Colorado. Does Texas have jurisdiction in Colorado? So you got to ask. Colorado apprehended them, and we have to ask Colorado, would you send them to us? What's that? There's a word for that. Starts with the E.
Expedite.
Extradition, extradite. Extradition means to get somebody outside your jurisdiction to send the criminal back to you, or the accused back to you. But we don't have jurisdiction in Colorado. Now, I'll tell you about the guy out of Philadelphia that killed his girlfriend and cut her up and put her in a box. This is in the 70s. And this guy killed his girlfriend, cut her up, put her in a box, and then fled the country. He was tried in absentia. Guess what in absentia means? What would absentia mean? Absent. He was gone. He wasn't there, but they had the trial anyway. They found him guilty. They know exactly where he's at. He's in France. Now he might have died between now. This is like 10 years ago. They know exactly where he's at. France will not extradite him because we have the death penalty in America. So they will not cooperate and they will not extradite him. So a murderer is running around France unless he's died by now, because we don't have jurisdiction in France to go get somebody. Just like France doesn't have extradition, that have jurisdiction in Texas or America to go and get something.
Where your power ends.
What's what? Because they don't believe in the death penalty. So they're not going to send him over here. There might be something if, all right, let's say a guy out of Iran. Apostasy, you know what apostasy is? I might be semi-wrong here. Apostasy is to basically give up your old beliefs, and like say you're a Muslim and you all of a sudden believe Jesus Christ died for you. That would be apostasy. That'd be turning away from your old way of thinking. That is illegal in Iran. You cannot become a Christian in Iran. It's illegal because it's a theocracy. So say somebody from Iran fled, came to America, and was a Christian preacher. They would want that person extradited so they could punish them in Iran. We would say, no, we're not going to do that. Somebody said something. Else
So is it where your power ends?
Yeah, it really is. Where you have no control. You have control in here, but you don't have any control out there. Wise County Sheriff doesn't have jurisdiction in Parker County. Texas Rangers don't have jurisdiction in Oklahoma. The Texas Rangers don't have jurisdiction in Arlington this year. How about that? Thank you. Okay, concurrent jurisdiction. Do you remember that word, concurrent? We did it before with powers, with government powers. There were, like, the federal government can tax and the state governments can tax. So that's a concurrent power. What would concurrent jurisdiction mean? Federal and the state could both have jurisdiction over a case. So they both, Fed and state have jurisdiction over a case. On in April of 1990, gosh, I don't know, 95 maybe. I was showing a film. We were watching a film on World War II in history class at Gunner, and I just popped the tape out. It was on channel 3. That's what you had to have a channel, whatever. And it popped out, and channel 3 actually was out of Sherman, and you could see fuzzy picture because it wasn't coming in real clear, and you saw this weird looking building. It was in Oklahoma City. Anybody know what building what's going on there? It was when they blew up the building. Tim McVeigh blew up the federal building in Oklahoma. So by blowing up federal property, destroying federal property, who has jurisdiction over that? Federal government. Okay? You don't have to write this down, it's just an example. What jurisdiction did the state have over that? It was federal property, but what happened there? Murder. Murder is a state crime. So the state of Oklahoma, 185, I don't know how close that is. They wanted to try Timothy McVeigh for 185 murders. They have the right to ask for that. Yeah, there was 185 murders, give or take. Do you know what made this so horrible? I mean, it's already horrible. You know what was on the first floor of that building?
Commercial.
Daycare. Bunch of babies, bunch of kids. That's a tough guy. You know, if you're gonna do something like him. No, you know what I mean? Godzilla, what a piece of crap. Anyway, that was for free. That was editorial comment there. You never pay for that. That's free. So the federal courts and the state courts both had jurisdiction over that case. When there's concurrent jurisdiction, I skipped every day of law school, right? They will sit down and say, just try to decide who has the best case, who has the easiest route to a conviction. And this was emotional. All right? Does that make sense? That's emotional. There's 185. Can you have 185 trials for one person? No. And the Fed said, look, we got this. We have the, because it was a murder on federal property. Now this is where murder is a state crime, but the killings took place on federal property. The Fed said we can try the whatever you call it, what's the death penalty for this one. We have the death penalty here, so we'll take it. So he was tried in federal court, found guilty of murder, and he was executed, I guess, in Fort Leavenworth, in Kansas, or wherever they do that. But that's a situation where there was concurrent jurisdiction. Everybody cool on that? Anybody ever been there? I want to go there. I've never been there. See the chairs they got. Anybody been there? See it? I want to see that. All right, original jurisdiction. What would original, now we're talking about court cases. What would have original jurisdiction? What does original mean?
Okay, so
The first one. So original jurisdiction would be the court that hears that case first has original jurisdiction. Whatever court hears the case first has original jurisdiction. If I am accused of murder and I go on trial, wherever that trial had, O.J. Simpson, his trial was tried in California. He had one trial. That trial had that case, whatever court that was, had original jurisdiction. It was the case that heard first. Why was there not an appeal made in the O.J. Simpson trial? Why is there no appeal? Was found not guilty. Can the prosecution ask for an appeal? No. Is that good?
Yes.
What is our system based on? What idea? Well, you're innocent. You have to be proven guilty. If we can't prove you're guilty, you walk. If we didn't have that, you'd never be off the hook. You'd always be having to retry that. You always have to defend yourself multiple times. You can appeal a guilty verdict. So the defense gets a redo. The prosecution has one chance to do it right. So the court case here at first is original. Appellate, which I think I spelled that right, even though it's not spelled right. What is appellate jurisdiction? Appeals. I might be two P's there. If you're found guilty, you have the chance to have a redo. You have a chance to appeal that decision. The appellate courts are the ones that hear the case on appeal. They don't hear it the first time. There is appellate courts. Those are the circuit courts. In fact, you can draw lines down to district and circuit. District courts are the original jurisdiction. District courts are where you try the case first. Circuit courts is where you appeal your cases. What's a circuit? What's that? Yes, that's true. You guys in ag, what's a circuit? And what does it do? It goes in a circle. A circus has a ring, right? The reason these are called circuit courts, back in the old days, like say in Texas, when they started Texas, was there a lot of people here? No. Did every area need an appeals court? Was there a need for an appeals court all the time? No. So the circuit judge, the appeals judge, would ride the circuit and go where they were needed. That makes sense? In the old days, they would ride the circuit. You didn't need them all the time. You didn't have cases all the time. The judge went where they were needed. So they were called riding the circuit. They were called the circuit judges. So these there's state circuit court of appeals and there's federal circuit court of appeals. So district is original, circuit is appeals. I hope y'all just need to know they exist. I hope you don't ever experience like full war what all this stuff is. All right, a plaintiff. You know what the plaintiff is? Plaintiff is the prosecution. They're the ones bringing the charges. If it's a criminal trial, it's the state or the county. In a civil case, it's the person doing the suing. You're trying to prove guilt. You're trying to, prove guilt. Prosecution, plaintiff, prove guilt. Who's the defendant? The person defending themselves, the person being charged. Person defending themselves. Are you guilty? You don't know. You don't know yet. I'll figure that out. All right, now there's judicial activism and judicial restraint. It's kind of easy to define. It's hard to tell when it's really happening. Judicial activism has the word active in it. Judicial activism would be where a judge actively tries to make things happen with their rulings. Like what's my view on abortion? I'm anti-abortion. So if I was a judge, if I was a judicial activist, I would look for ways for me to exert my will on my court cases and try to do away with abortion. That's a judicial activist. Using my position to make things happen, to make my view happen, to make my will happen. I do this, but if I was a coach activist, I would actively, all right, Lakin, you're here. Would you say that I work to get Pacer on the field and try to make things about him? Okay, good, because I don't. There are coaches I've seen out there who actively try to make their kid Easter, Texas. Their coach's kid. They have one of the best. I would argue he's one of the best running backs in the district, but he's not trying. It looks like from the outside he's trying to get his kid stuff because they throw the ball all over the place all the time, which that's fine, but seem like they don't use him enough. Right? Can I prove that? That's something I can easily prove. No, kind of, not really. I can look at stats, but even not really then. Part of judicial activism is if I'm myself anti-abortion and I see a judge that rules in a case that allows abortion, I could claim that person's an activist. Does that mean they're an activist? No. If you disagree with the ruling, you tend to say that judge is an activist. Does that make sense? But it's hard to prove that, and it's really more my opinion. If I agree with the judge, then they're doing great. If I disagree, then they're an activist. But judicial activism is where a judge uses their position to actively exert their will and change things using their position. Does that kind of make sense? Kind of? Now, what would judicial restraint be?
Not within their power.
They look at the law, they look at evidence, and they remember Justice Barrett, what she said, I read to you after she became a justice. What she say her job was. She said, my job's to put away my views and look at things unbiased. That's putting words in her mouth, but that's her. She said, she was basically saying my job is not to be an activist. My job is to use judicial restraint. Judicial restraint is just looking at the law and the evidence and putting away bias. There was a case, I don't know if this was a case, but I know there was a situation in Florida several years ago where a girl went to have an abortion. I don't know how far along she was. But while she was there at the abortion clinic, she actually gave birth to the kid. I don't know where, like I said, I don't know what week it was or what was going on. Gave birth to the kid. The person, she wasn't a doctor. She was the person that ran the abortion clinic. She grabbed the baby and went and threw it in the dumpster. If a judge ruled that was murder, there could be pro-abortion people who would say that judge is an activist. That kind of makes sense? And their argument was, well, she came for an abortion. So, but you see where judicial activism is tough to prove. Because what tends to happen is, I don't like this judge's decision, so they're an activist judge. I will tell you, and I'm biased. There's a bias. It's not an opinion. It's a biased opinion of a true statement. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, she is on the Supreme Court. She was the first judge picked by President Obama, I believe. There's a quote from her saying, yes, we legislate from the bench all the time. What does that statement mean? To legislate from the bench. What's legislation? Laws. What are the judges not supposed to do? Change the law, rewrite the laws. And I think what she's saying is, we interpret these laws and we look at them the way we look at them. I'm hoping that's what she's meaning. I hope she's not meaning we make the laws do what we want them to do. But that statement right there, could you maybe use that statement to say this judge is an activist judge? Maybe. Right? So it's judicial restraint and judicial. Does judicial restraint and judicial activism make sense? See how it's tough to define. It comes down to it. Precedent. Not precedent or precedent. Sometimes it's said precedent. What is a precedent? 1997, fall of 97. Paradise had the year before they was 0-10. The year before that they were 5-5. They hadn't been good throughout the 90s. 80s they were pretty good. 1997 Paradise made the playoffs for the first time since '88. That kind of set a precedent. And then for the next 10 years, Paradise missed the playoffs 3 times, I think. That's when 2 teams went. So a precedent had been set in 97 of what? We made the playoffs. Paradise is a decent football team. We make the playoffs. Now we kind of fell off. We all know. This year, could you say a new precedent has been set? Yeah. So what's a precedent?
Like a new tradition.
It's like a tradition. When you do something, something's been done that other things, it affects other things that pass after it. President Washington set a precedent of stepping down after 2 terms. And every president after that, until FDR, followed that precedent. So the precedent is something that's done that other things follow after. It's a pattern. It sets a pattern. When the boys were tiny, little Christy we'd talk, and then Christy would say, you know, the boys won't want to play football. And it wouldn't mean I would not love them. I just want them to be the best at whatever they're doing, the best they can be at whatever they're doing. If that's playing piano, that's great. If that's being in the band, that's fantastic. If it's playing football, that's great. But I guess Colt set a precedent by deciding to go ahead and play whether he wanted to or not. Pacers followed the precedent. Little Titan, I guess he says he likes to play, but then what's the statement he made a couple weeks ago? It doesn't have to be football, 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 Dad. And little Christy's laughing back in the background. A little help here, Christy. So does precedent make sense? All right, let's stop right there. You done, Robert? You done yet? All right. We're going to grade the matching part. You guys, I think most of them, I've looked at y'all's written part. We'll look at the other ones. I'll be completely done by tomorrow. I'll give you yours. Let's bring it out for something. I won't get you in trouble. All right, go ahead. What's up, Joe? All right, let's look at the number 1.
Make sure you put it up missing.
Diplomacy is negotiating with foreign countries. Good? Look at the letter they wrote if it's good. Maybe give them the right letter if you want to.
But we're not gonna roll out in black, so I can't see.
Yeah, it goes, you can see that. It goes across and down. I'll help you. Thank you, kindergarten teacher, for helping me do ABC. Credit's limited to what? 2 terms. I'm just gonna watch Dory when she's done on her own. All right. President has to be a natural born citizen. The War Powers Act says the president can send troops out for 60 days. FDR used fireside chats to bond with the American people. Executive orders have the effect of a law, they don't go through Congress. The White House can claim executive privilege and say, no, we're not giving you stuff. The West Wing is where the executive office of the president is.
What was that?
You skipped 8.
I skipped 8. Okay, the president has to go through the Senate to get people they appoint. The Senate.
Number 9 is West Wing.
9 is West Wing. Let's see. That one is, yeah, O, West Wing. The chief of staff is in charge of the president's schedule. It's on the first row. Put one down. Q. Who's Q? All right. The cabinet is the 15 heads. The press secretary deals with the press daily. You need to damage your self-esteem, but E, that one's E. Your name's Dory. Each state has the same number of electoral votes. You got it, Kelly? You help me? All right. Did you get student of the month yet? Did you get student of the month in here yet? What's gonna happen? You're helping. There you go. There you go, Ron John. One time in off season, one time, your brother did something right. And I even thought about it before I said it. I said, look, y'all, do like he's doing. Do what Jenkins doing. And he said, I'm going to quote, I think it was his senior class. Yeah. It did happen once. National Security Advisor is L. Yeah, it's L. The White House Counsel advises the president about constitutionality as G.
Oh, wait,
What's what?
where are we at?
15. 14 is advisor. 15 is counsel.
Wait, 15 is council?
Yes. Advise the president about the constitutionality of their actions. 16 is bureaucracy, is the structure and offices you got to go through. There are 100 primaries. There are 538 total electoral votes. President Reagan had the biggest win in election history. And 20 is pardoned. Those are 2 points apiece.
Make sure you missed every one of them.
Put the points they missed above number 1. They're 2 points apiece.
Clayton Smith, please come to the office. Clayton Smith, come to the office.
We good? Pass back to the person that owns it.
Make a straight line all the way down to it.
Yeah.
Straight line.
There's 8 to it.
Eight?
Wait, let me see it.
I mean, I missed like 4.
Here's a great choice.
Line number what?
Yeah.
83.
I knew you were doing all this.
I don't know what's that.
Well, I'm at 80.
Like, it's on this side.